Today we have a bit of rare good news from the gaming industry. It seems that the gaming industry has overplayed its hand, and in their rush for continual, expansive, infinite growth, they finally tripped the regulation trap. Let's go over it. Hey all, it's Nim, or Nim, a creative film professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going over how the House of Lords wants loot boxes to be classified as gambling, in an article on PC Gamer by Fraser Brown. A link to the author's Twitter will be in the description. Now, for those who don't know, the House of Lords, from what I understand, is analogous to the US Senate, where the House of Commons is analogous to the House of Representatives. The Senate has a little bit more authority. It's a little bit more exclusive, harder requirements to get there, and I believe the House of Lords have lifetime appointments. I'd have to look up into that. Sadly, I'm not an expert on British political systems. I have some understanding. The UK House of Lords, specifically its Select Commission on Social and Economic Impact of the Gambling Industry, has called for loot boxes to be classified as gambling and regulated as such. Now, I do have to ask, for EA, does that cover surprise mechanics? God, I hope it does, because I remember, and I'll throw it up on screen.
You may not believe you have you may not have a legal duty of care. I think you'd agree that a company like yourselves should have a code of ethics. And we've heard a lot of evidence in this committee from Dr. David Zendel, among others, that loot boxes are closely linked to problem gambling, particularly among adolescents. Can I ask you, both companies, do you consider loot boxes to be an ethical feature of your games? Kerry?
Well, first, we don't call them loot boxes. I think that was
whatever term you wish to apply to them. Do you consider them ethical?
So, what we look at as surprise mechanics, but I think it's important to look at this. So, if you go to a I don't know what your version of Target is, but a store that sells a lot of toys.
There we go. We saw that on screen, where they talked about surprise mechanics as it's not loot boxes. That was a very audacious rebrand, and everyone saw through it. The report, which was wide-ranging, claims that the liberalization of gambling by the Gambling Act of 2005, the universal adoption of smartphones, and the exploitation of soft-touch regulation by gambling operators has created a perfect storm of addictive 24/7 gambling. Yeah, I agree. And let me walk you through this. So let's hypothetically say we have young Nim, right? Let's say young Nim is 14. I'm 32 right now. But let's say young Nim is 14. All right. I can take some money. I can go on my bike or walk to my local game store. I can buy a time card, a physical time card. I can then take that time card back to my house, enter the code. I now have a balance. That balance can be used for loot boxes. And a lot of companies have that system. Now, they may not sell direct access to the loot box where you have the lights and the sounds and the things, and you open it up. You may do something like Guild Wars 2 where you can buy keys, and those keys open up random chests, and those random chests drop throughout the world. But, I mean, that's six one way, half a dozen the other. You know, why does that matter? Anyways, video games were a target, and the reclassification of loot boxes is one of the report's key recommendations. It also notes that other countries have already started regulating them, like Belgium and the Netherlands, as evidence presented other reports and from various groups and experts, though not all of it backs up the Select Committee's recommendations. Now, here's the thing. Committees are always going to have different opinions. There's going to be a spectrum. So you have to try to find the consensus and build it, but it seems that most of them, according to the reporting in the article, agree that loot boxes should be classified as gambling. And in fact, we saw that in Belgium specifically, EA was willing to break the law to continue to sell loot boxes or packs in their FIFA game. Now, here's the thing about that. If you're willing to break the law to keep doing something, odds are it's either really profitable, or if you stop, bad things are going to happen. So that might be something there. And of course, we always have to remember that in the gaming industry, there are three types of players. There's whales, other fish, and our peasants. The industry loves whales. God, does the industry love whales. Whales are these people who would spend money upon money upon money upon money over and over and over again on microtransactions. In certain games, I myself am probably a whale. I play World of Warcraft. I've bought a couple store mounts. I'm wearing a World of Warcraft t-shirt right now. They're probably like, yeah, Nim's a whale. We like Nim. Well, if I'm a whale, listen to me. For the love of God, put corruptions on a static vendor. Okay, I know the segue. Anyways, as we get back to it, the UK Gambling Commission, for instance, published a report saying that loot boxes are not gambling, at least under UK law, even if they involve an element of chance and a prize. It concluded that no changes were necessary, but social gaming should be kept an eye on. Now, not having read that report, and I'll say that I haven't read it, I'm going to guess because there's no way to remonetize. So what I mean by remonetize is I put money in, I play the game, I have no way of, even if winning, pulling money back out. All my rewards are in the form of digital goods. Or the other option, which is often it's not gambling if you get something. So by that logic, and I know the internet, well, by your logic, Fedora tip. No. But using that framework, we'll say, if I'm guaranteed to always get a penny out of a slot machine, it is not gambling. So I can put $100 in, takes my money, and I pull the lever, and it goes womp womp womp. I didn't win, but I got a penny, so it's not technically gambling. Anyone who actually believes that is probably being disingenuous, and you should look at who's funding them. Last year, the Department of Digital, Culture, Media, and Sport performed a 9-month parliamentary inquiry into loot boxes, and it came to a different conclusion. Recommended gambling content warnings be applied to games. In June, the government also launched a call to evidence into loot box. The House of Lords, however, believes the issue needs more urgent attention. Way to go, House of Lords. Seriously, it does. It actually needs more attention, because here's the thing. I have a phone right here, right? This phone, boom. This is my phone. This is Nim's phone. It's Galaxy S10. Pretty nice phone. Anyways, anybody who can get onto that phone can spend money if cards are linked. And you may be like, well, why is your card linked on your phone? Oh, I don't know, because maybe I buy things on my phone as an adult. And there's so much crossover between game apparatuses and game platforms and other things. Now you'd be like, well, you could always enable a password. Yes, I could. Or hypothetically, and go with me there, you could stop having predatory microtransactions that are designed to lure people in. There's a model in microtransactions and in gaming called hook, habit, hobby. And there's a whole thing you can see on YouTube about somebody giving a lecture on that. And the idea is the hook is, first, oh, this is a great deal. You break the ice. Then you get people engaged by giving daily rewards and continually reinforcing and announcing to your entire clan or guild or corporation or whatever happens in the game that somebody bought something. And then from there, you bring friends in, you create connections, and it's a hobby. And the goal is to get people to spend money, and that to be the preferred social way to get social points and to interact with the game's interface. Realistically, 99% of people who play free-to-play games and other games do not spend money in the cash shop. But they never want to tell people that, because then instead of being the put on a pedestal, it's like, oh, you're weird. Why do you spend money on this? We agree that it's vital that any legislative changes are based on evidence, reads the report. The evidence we have heard stressed the urgency of taking action and has not drawn attention to any unintended consequences. It recommends, then, that ministers shouldn't wait for the government to review the Gambling Act, instead make changes to the Act now, placing loot boxes under its remit. It also warns that regulating something as gambling after it's already out in the wild is too late, as it's already caused harm, so the legislative definition of a game of chance needs to be changed to cover new products which blur the distinction between video gaming and gambling. I agree, and that's one of the problems with technology, is that technology tends to move much faster than legislation. And that's probably by design. And all in all, it's not a bad thing. I know that I don't want my phone to be regulated so much. I want the ability to be exploited from my phone or my children to put me in a bad place to be reeled in and controlled and regulated. And luckily, I'm in a pretty good place, right? I'm an engineer during the day. I do the YouTube and Twitch. I'm very familiar with predatory microtransaction practices and hook, habit, hobby, bait, and switch. I'm familiar with all those things. But what if, let's say hypothetically, I wasn't. Let's say hypothetically I wasn't involved in all this. Well, then I potentially, because I wanted to get my child a game, because I want my child to be happy, now my child's hitting me up for money. Well, okay, why is this? Why is this? Why is this? Why is this? There's an old joke that what game is worse for a child, Doom or FIFA? One of the games has shotguns and you rip demons apart and you literally battle the forces of hell. The other game is a Predator. So it also wants to give ministers the power to regulate any activity in which their view has the characteristics of gambling under the Gambling Act. Essentially, if it looks like gambling, it's gambling. The whole idea, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it smells like a duck, it's a duck. Okay, makes sense. Trade Association UKIE released a statement on behalf of UK games industry saying it's been working to address the issues raised in the committee's report. Has it? Has it? It has, really. It's so you've given systems to opt out of. You've created alternate systems and games that allow you to opt out of microtransactions entirely. You haven't tied progress or injected a grind and then sold a solution to skip the grind. You've allowed us to unlock cosmetics through gameplay as opposed to the old tired excuse of, well, it's just cosmetic. In January this year, the industry launched its wide-reaching Get Smart About Play campaign, which is sought to increase the use of family controls to help parents and carers manage, limit, or turn off spending in games. The major platforms have also committed to require all games featuring loot boxes to publicly disclose probabilities. The PEGI, I believe that's similar to our ESRB, age rating system has also introduced paid random item descriptor to inform consumers where loot boxes are featured in games. You can read the full report. Let's skip to page 110 if you're interested in the loot box bits. Of course, this article was by Fraser Brown. So let's chat about this real quick. All right, so we're back. We're back here. We're back at the bar. As I'm everybody's favorite bartender. By the way, I stream on Twitch Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday and Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There'll be something up there right now. So we saw in the report that they want to regulate loot boxes like loot boxes. Okay, they want to be like, it's gambling. It's got their game's a chance. We need to have a more expansive definition. I think that's good. Now I can already hear people saying, but what about player choice? I'm an adult. I can make decisions for myself. Okay, yes, you can. You can make decisions for yourself. But there was a time where you didn't have that option. I remember that time. We'll take an example. GoldenEye. GoldenEye was a loved shooter. It's on the Nintendo 64. There was no way to spend money in that game after you bought it. If you wanted the big head cheat, you had to unlock the big head cheat. If you wanted invincibility, you had to unlock invincibility. And you did that not through the use of a credit card, but through the use of gameplay and being good at the game. Essentially, to quote the Dark Souls meme, you got good. So here's the question. Do you think that loot boxes are gambling? If not, please tell me why. I'm willing to discuss this, and believe me, I will respond to those comments. If you think they're gambling, how far? Do you think it's too far? Do you think that the House of Lords should be stronger? I personally am lauding their stance. I think it's great. I think they need to have more and more and more and more power. At least in terms of regulating in-game transactions and loot boxes and gambling and such, because it's predatory. It sells hope. And especially since I know in Overwatch uses all the lights and sounds and motions and things to the same psychological hooks that slot machines use. And more importantly, children have access to that. And again, I go back to FIFA and Doom. One of them is violent, gory murdering of demons that are willing to kill you, and the other is a predator. That being said, of course, my name was Nim, or Nimicry if you're feeling professional. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and all those other things, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, and bye.